Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at basically the top 100 Pokemon for the Great League meta, and we're gonna rank them all, and we're gonna start immediately because we kinda have to be a little bit faster with this video. I don't want to have it very long, but let's move on immediately with the first Pokemon being a Venusaur. I would put it into the B tier right now. Very solid Pokemon, but it's going to be a little bit outclassed by some other Pokemon. Definitely very usable, especially as a Shadow variant. This video should help you out most likely as well to see what you kind of want to build and what not. But the next Pokemon going to be Charizard. It is close to the S tier rank still for me, but I kind of have to put it into the A tier for today's video. We're going to have the Pidgeot next, B tier for sure. Very solid right now. If you saw my video for the Retro Cup, this Pokemon wrecked them all. Very solid Pokemon, kind of underrated. I think this Pokemon going to get a little bit more play in the future as well. Alolan Sandslash, a Pokemon that was S tier last season, I would actually put a little bit lower. Just because of the recent meta shift, it is not really as ideal for this Pokemon, even though Pokemon like Medicham are not as common anymore. It's still not going to perform as well because Pokemon like Liga are not as common anymore. Moving on, we're going to have the next one here going to be the Ninetales. Kanto Ninetales kinda got a little bit of a buff, but it's not going to be as like crazy common either. Still, but definitely a usable Pokemon now, with Fire Spin being a little bit better than Ember. So you don't need that elite tier. Next one going to be the other Ninetales, and I would put it basically into the same tier. Charm users are kinda iffy to play in the current meta, I would say. We're going to see it later on anyway. But yeah, this Pokemon definitely is solid. And then the next Pokemon is something where a lot of people will disagree with me. But Wigglytuff, I don't think it is as strong. I haven't played it yet other than like one game. So I still have to see how this is going to go for me. But yeah, I'm mostly going to take a look at this eventually. But right now in the meta, I feel like the meta is just not really it for it. But we can move on to the next one, which is going to be Golbat. Very underrated, very cheap Pokemon, very cool to use. Definitely B tier for me as well. A decent flying type Pokemon, can debuff the opponent. Very cool. First S tier Pokemon, going to be Poliwrath. Poliwrath with a new update. I played it for like 3 sets or something. This Pokemon is amazing. I love it. It's really strong. And I would be surprised if we're not going to see this in the top like 16 or whatever for the next regional. This Pokemon going to be very solid there. And has just great coverage. Ice Wind going to help it. Scald Buff going to help it. Was already a solid Pokemon before. And now where Medicham is a little bit weaker, it's going to be a little bit more of the preferred fighting type. Most likely Medicham still going to be better, but it's still going to be fine. Or like more common at least. Next Pokemon, another fighting type, going to be Machamp. I would say it's currently, like, this is the thing as well, there are a lot of Pokemon that didn't really get a change for the last, I don't know, 10 seasons, so, like, they're kind of a little bit underrated because it's kind of a power creep right now, so this Pokemon is going to be B tier for me, not really as preferred now anymore. Another S tier pick, I have to put it here, it's not in the top 100 of PvP Poke, but I had to put it in, is Victory Bell. Victory Bell right now is overpowered. It is really strong against the current meta, sadly. I already made a video about the Amoonguss, if you haven't seen this one. I played Victory Bell there. It literally destroyed most of the meta because it's very water, yeah, heavy. And like Victory Bell is just completely destroying this kind of meta. Next Pokemon, Dewgong, a little bit lower this time around as well, I would say. I feel like last season had a little bit more play, also because of Gligar being that common. Now with like Skarmory, it's not as great anymore. Still a solid Pokemon though. Marowak is also in the A tier pick for me. Got a little bit better, kind of want to still try it out. Definitely going to make a video eventually about it. But this Pokemon is a fun one. Maybe I even made a video about it today. I don't think so actually. But a very solid Pokemon there. Next one going to be Lickitung. Not S+ for me this season. Definitely still S tier, but not S+ for me. S+ for me is a little bit different, at least this time around. S+ of course is like the highest tier, in my opinion, the best Pokemon currently. I know that there are going to be some people that are going to disagree for that on as well, but we're going to see it later on. The first D tier is going to be Snorlax. Don't know how it made it into the top 100. It's a solid alternative though, like against like the Lickitung, but it's not like if you don't need to use it, I would not use it. Dragonair as well as Dragonite both have to be in the S tier in the current meta. Like Dragon types are really strong. Those Pokemon are really strong in general. Meganium is kind of a little bit worse now as the Earthquake got nerfed like the season prior. So for me, a C tier Pokemon, still usable, but not as great as, for example, a Venusaur or a Victory Bell. And we're gonna have our first 2 S+ tier picks. Azumarill plus also the Lantern. Lantern is the top tier pick for me right now in the current meta. This Pokemon is just so strong against most of the most common Pokemon in the meta, so I have to put it into the first tier. And Azumarill got buffed with Bubble and kind of got so much more play also against the Pokemon that are currently common, so that's kind of nice there. We're going to have Jumpluff. Jumpluff is for me a low B tier pick. Very interesting Pokemon, played it recently as well. I think the Oh no, actually you're not going to see this video for a longer time most likely, because other people already showcased the Pokemon that was actually featured for it, and I don't really like to showcase stuff that got just featured on YouTube, so that's most likely not going to see a video about it. But it was a lot of fun to play it. Definitely a solid pick, but not as crazy either. Wouldn't put it higher than B tier. Quagsire is for me an A tier Pokemon. You could argue of putting it to S tier, but I feel like there are just other Pokemon that are a little bit better for this kind of role. A tier is also for me Umbreon. Would have had, I think, S tier last season. I think this season it's going to be a little bit weaker, but still going to be very solid. But like the Azumarill being basically everywhere is going to make this Pokemon a little bit tougher to play. Wobbuffet, C tier. Last season, I think it was a little bit better than it's going to be this season, but we still have to try it out. Maybe I'm going to make a video about this Pokemon also eventually. The Gligar is actually dropping down for me from the S tier to the A tier. Still usable Pokemon, I barely face it anymore, and I feel like the meta in general is just not really preferred for it. I actually maybe put it even lower than this, because like it's super low A tier for me, because another Pokemon that we're just gonna put into the S tier plus, which is Skarmory, completely hardwalls this Pokemon. You have Azumarill, which is a bad matchup for you, and you have a lot of other matchups that are going to be not ideal for you. So this is maybe the third choice flying type Pokemon or something, if even, for the Great League right now. So it is not as great anymore, and this is kind of interesting because it was really strong in the last season, but this is kind of how it shifts, and I like how it shifts. Like, I honestly like this current season a lot so far, so hopefully it stays like this. Mantine, you could argue S tier nearly. It's a very solid pick. I'm just gonna put high A tier. I like this Pokemon quite a lot, and I can put Pelipper basically directly next to it as well. Same typing, different kind of ways of playing it. I think Pelipper is a little bit better even than Mantine in the current meta, because water type coverage is kind of nice, especially against Pokemon like the what's called the Talonflame. It's really important to have like Weather Ball there. So I feel like that Pelipper is a little bit better, but both of them are great Pokemon. Hitmontop is, for me, C tier. Don't really see the current point of playing this Pokemon. Same kind of goes for Blaziken. Blaziken was most likely also not ideal for it, but also got a buff with Blaze Kick this time around. We're going to have Swampert, and I could argue of going for S tier plus with it, but I'm gonna put it high S tier. Has a lot of potential. I would imagine that we're going to see this Pokemon a little bit more common now for like play Pokemon tournaments again, because of the option to hit Lantern for super effective damage, because you're still going to resist the fast move of the Skarmory, making the matchup a little bit better for you. And also another Pokemon that's going to be S tier plus, which I'm just gonna put in there for, yeah, just narration's sake, is going to be Talonflame, which is really, really strong. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna let anybody talk to me like this Pokemon is S tier plus for me. For sure, it is so strong when I played it, and I hate playing against it, so for me, S tier plus for the Great League. This, by the way, only Great League, not anything else. Another S tier Pokemon is going to be Vigoroth. This Pokemon, for sure, deserves to be on this S tier list. Going to be one of the best Sace-Ups in the current meta. If you don't encounter something like a Medicham in the back, you're going to be fine. Sableye, in my opinion, also because of the Azumarill buff and just the meta in general, it is okay, but I would not put it into S tier anymore in the current meta. I might be wrong about this, but also that you now have basically losing matchups against a lot of the buffed Pokemon is going to be a little bit tricky for you. So Sableye, still solid pick. Again, A tier are good Pokemon. It's not that those Pokemon are horrific or unplayable, but like I would not really say that this Pokemon is going to be that crazy. Medicham, I'm still gonna put into S tier because anything else would most likely be wrong, but I would put it pretty low onto it. Like, honestly, I don't encounter it too often, which I love to see. Honestly, like, this season I feel like makes so much more fun to me, just because, that's not how you say it, but you know what I mean. Just because you don't really see the same Pokemon all over, or like the same insanely bulky Pokemon like Medicham all over, which I just enjoy. It might shift around over like the course of the season, but at least right now, I love the season so much more than the last one already, which is really good. Altaria, for me, still B tier. Like, I feel like people say it's a little bit more unusable than it actually is. I think it has a lot of play. But again, Azumarill is also everywhere. You have another flying type that's part steel type, which is like going to be insanely common. And yeah, it's going to be okay, but not that great either. Wishcast, I'm just gonna put it into S tier because of what people say. I think it's a solid Pokemon. I think it's a little bit overhyped maybe, but I still think it's a solid Pokemon there. Better most likely than Quagsire as well was called. Just a little bit better, what's called, stats as well than the Quagsire, so it's most likely why, but I feel like this is kind of solid for it. Credilli. Credilli is going to be an A tier Pokemon for me, because this Pokemon is a great anti-meta pick right now. Would put it actually a little bit higher as well here, because Credilli breaks Talonflame and Water types, which is a common combination right now, so Really solid grass type as well. We're going to have Walrein next, which I don't know why it's even on the list. For me, it's a D tier. Like, there are so many other Pokemon that are just better. Just, I don't know why it's still in the top 100, but it's sadly that this Pokemon was like so meta back in the day. I feel like you could even buff it a little bit more, give Icicle Spear maybe a little bit more damage, and maybe give it even to other Pokemon, but right now, not really that great. I don't really see the point of Regirock. Yes, you can still deal with like Talonflame, but even Steel Ring or Skarmory is going to hurt you quite a bit, so I'm gonna put it low. And honestly, I have to put Registeel not into the S tier pick. This is of course, my own opinion. You can have a completely different opinion. For me, it's just A tier. I don't know, like I feel like the meta is currently not really ideal for us Pokemon. Yes, you have Skarmory, yes, you have Azumarill, but you also have Swampert. Lantern is not really ideal. Talonflame is a worse matchup now. I feel like this Pokemon is still solid, of course. Like but there are a lot of Mud Boys right now. There are a lot of Pokemon that answered, so I would not really say it's that great. Honestly, I don't know. I kind of would like to put nearly even into S+, but I kind of put it into the same area as the Swamp is going to be the Deoxys defense. I feel like this Pokemon going to be basically the new Medicham. Like, Deoxys defense has so much coverage in the current meta that I feel like it's going to be one of the best Pokemon to play. Honestly, also, I think Bastion was the last time I made this kind of video in the A tier. This time around, I put it back into the S tier. Going to be a little bit better against the current meta. Slow wins against the Azumarill even after the bubble buff if they don't run Hydro Pump. Munchlax next, I don't really see the point of playing this Pokemon either in the current meta. It's still solid though. Like, I would still put it into the C tier a little bit higher maybe even than the Snorlax. Just has a little bit better stats and has Tackle, which is kind of nice for it, which is also the moveset that it runs on PvPoke. Next Pokemon coming up, we're going to have Toxicroak. Toxicroak going to be an A tier Pokemon for me. This Pokemon has definitely some potential to be very strong, but then again, like, it's not going to be as crazy. It's definitely a solid fighting type Pokemon for sure. Next Pokemon coming up, we're going to have the Abomasnow. Abomasnow got Icy Wind, which doesn't really make this Pokemon any better, so I'm gonna put it into like B tier. I feel like B tier is kind of solid for it, but anything else would be a little bit of overkill. Magnezone, I feel like, is going to be a Pokemon that's going to get a little bit more of love throughout the season. This Pokemon can beat Azumarill plus Skarmory, which is a big core as well, so I feel like it has a lot of potential. Gliscor, like, honestly, I don't really see Gliscor at all. Like, I saw Gligar a little bit still, but like Gliscor, I would even put into D tier, like high D tier. It's just really not really something that you want to use. And I feel like for this next one, people are going to hate me as well again. But I feel like Frostless is just top B tier now. I honestly feel like it's not even A tier anymore. I feel like the meta just didn't really shift towards it. It's I can see people argue that it's still A tier, but I cannot even argue to see it like a little bit higher than this because of Lantern, because of Azumarill, because of literally the entire top S plus tier is all pretty decent against the Frostless. So I don't really think it's going to be as great anymore, just because the top tier meta is a little bit like difficult for it to deal with. Cresselia, I could see this Pokemon being more common again soon, but with Future Sight over Moonblast, I feel like this might make a little bit of more sense here because you're going to be able to hit something like a Talonflame for neutral damage. Superior, I'm still gonna put S tier. I thought of putting it into A tier first, but I still have to put it into S tier in my opinion. It's still too good for it. But again, like, you're going to be able to beat like Azumarill as well as the Lantern, but it's going to be very tough against the two flying type Pokemon, so it's going to be a little bit worse in my opinion than last season, so I'm going to put it a little bit lower here as well. So I feel like Victreebel is, I know like people are going to say, oh, Victreebel way too high. In my opinion, it definitely deserves to be like that high up on the S tier pick for sure. Samurott, C tier, don't really have to talk too much about it. Scrafty, not really an ideal fighting type anymore as well. I would put it into the C tier as well, especially with the recent flying type Pokemon that are more upgraded, as well as the Azumarill. We have Jellicent, in my opinion, clear A tier Pokemon. Very solid anti-meta Pokemon for like something like Talonflame, for something like the Skarmory as well. So very solid Pokemon there. I can see that the Galarian Stunfisk is going to make a little bit of a return just because of the rock side coverage, which is really good. So you're going to be able to also beat something like the Skarmory usually, I think. So that's going to be nice. You're going to have Rufflet. It's a C tier pick in my opinion. It's a fun one, but it's not as great. And Manobus, in my opinion, still has to be into the S tier. It's a decent flying type Pokemon, just the Bull going to still keep it up there in my opinion. But again, it's got lost a little bit of value in my opinion for this season, but not too much. Swilus. Swilus is going to be a C tier in my opinion, not really that great, but you're going to have Guslord, which is basically the same type, which I'm going to put into a high B tier for me. Very solid anti-meta pick, but again, it's not as great with the Azumarill getting buffed, and also against the Skarmory it struggles a little bit, so the meta kind of shifted against it as well in my opinion. I will hope that, like, I wish that we're gonna get the low kick buff soon or eventually in general. For the Chestnut, in my opinion, just a C tier Pokemon for sure. Greninja got nerfed a little bit, in my opinion, with the meta that is currently relevant because you're going to struggle against both the Lantern as well as the Azumarill pretty hard. So I'm gonna put it into like low A tier. Last season I would have nearly put it into the S tier, but like now it definitely lost a little bit of value. Same goes for Diggersby. I'm gonna still put it into B tier here. I'm not sure about it. Maybe Diggersby is way better than I thought, but like against the meta again, like you're not going to enjoy most of the matchups there. I don't think it's going to be as crazy, maybe with Hyper Beam or something, but honestly, I don't really think it's as good right now in the current meta. D tiers for me, actually, okay, I have to kind of put it into C tier just because of the two fast, like with the fast move as well as the Leaf Blade for the Go-Goat. If it gets Rock Slide, it would most likely go up to either A or S tier, but it needs Rock Slide to do that because Rock Slide is going to give you coverage against Pokemon like the Dragonite or against the Pokemon like the Talonflame. Auroras, I don't really see a point of playing this right now. Like, literally look at the top Pokemon there. Yes, they're going to do super effective damage against the Talonflame, but you're gonna get wrecked by basically everything else. Carbink, honestly, I thought it would be like one of the best Pokemon this season, but because they made the fast move of Steel Wing that overpowered, I don't actually think it's that great anymore. So definitely I would still say it's decent against basically anything else, but I would put it into A tier only, which I did not really expect before, but because Steel Wing is got the buff and actually changed so much in the meta, I feel like this Pokemon is not as common anymore, which I like, which is really good for us as well. But yeah, next Pokemon needs a buff, Trevenant. I put it still into, I'm still gonna put it into the B tier, but Trevenant definitely kind of wants to have a buff eventually. I feel like it's kind of valuable for that as well. And next Pokemon is something that got upgraded in my opinion this season as well, good to be Charger Bug. Gonna put it into the S tier. This Pokemon is amazing. I played like now 2 or 3 teams. This Pokemon is really good against the current meta, beats or like has played against basically all the S plus Pokemon, plus most of the Pokemon of the S tier as well. Charger Bug is literally so bad, definitely try it out, really good Pokemon. Low S tier, going to be the Toxapex in my opinion, very solid Pokemon as well in the current meta, hardest answer to Azumarill, but struggles a little bit against the Skarmory as well as the Lantern. We're going to have the little bit better variant of the Chestnut, so it's going to be a B tier for Lurantis. We're going to have Salazzle, which is also just B tier. I made a video about it. It was a lot of fun to play, but it's a little bit too squishy for it, but it's still a fun Pokemon. I wish that this Pokemon, where I forgot the name of it, would be getting a little bit more coverage, but like this, which just only has like fighting type coverage, I have to put it into D tier. Kommo is a cool B tier Pokemon for me, could be close to A tier as well. Definitely a solid Dragon type alternative to the ones that in S tier. But again, like Dragon Tail is kind of holding back a lot of them. I feel like Dragon Breath is just a little bit better. We're going to have the Buzzwole. Cool fighting type Pokemon, would put into B tier. I think it has a lot of play. I think that also the Wigglytuff has to be onto the top of the B tier still, but very solid there. I feel like that the Greedent might become S tier eventually, but I'm gonna put it into A tier now. It's so solid with the coverage now, or like the grass type coverage, allowing you to hit hard against the Lantern as well as the Azumarill and can even win those matchups now is really good for it. Buffing its own attack, like I played it before and it was amazing. I'm gonna play it most likely eventually as well again, and it is just a very strong Pokemon. Next Pokemon coming up, Dapple, kinda like was meta for a little bit and now it's not as meta anymore, and I would just put into B tier as well. I feel like with Wild Charge it has maybe a little bit of play in this meta because you have like 3 Pokemon being weak to Electric in the S plus tier for me, but Kommo kinda is also not as ideal anymore nowadays. I feel like the Obstagoon is not really as ideal anymore. Obstagoon is kind of, again, never got buffed really in the last few seasons, so it kind of was slowly going down those ladders because like it's just not really going to have any play in the current meta. I feel like there are just so many Pokemon just better and just got buffed a little bit more, and so it's kind of lacking behind a little bit there. Something that's not really lacking behind, I kind of want to try out as well, is going to be Surfetch, and I think Surfetch is going to be one of the best Fang type Pokemon in the current meta as well, because it has coverage with the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is basically making this Pokemon a very unique fighter, which is going to help out with so many matchups against other Pokemon here, like Lantern, like the Azumarill, like the Swampert, like the Poliwrath, like the Wishcast. It's going to have so much more play than other fighting type Pokemon. I feel like that the Surfetch has a lot more play than people actually realize currently. Next one, going to be the Sneasler, in my opinion, maybe C tier. Shadow is kind of cool for it, but I don't think the meta is really it for it. We're going to have Skeledirge, has to be kind of in the same area as the Alone Marek, maybe a little bit higher than this actually, because Skeledirge is a little bit better in the current meta. We're going to have Clodsire, is for me an S tier pick, a very high S tier pick as well. Very solid in the current meta, for sure, like really, really strong, played before. This thing just can take any hit, it's just so wild. And then the last Pokemon going to be Arctibax, and this is going to be for me an S tier pick as well, very low but very solid. And so this is going to be it for my tier list for the Great League. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it. Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Let me know, and that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.